Welcome to Flunking the Written, a fully spoiled Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast in which two Uber fans break down every episode of the show. Join Kimberly and Megan every other Tuesday as they overanalyze each scene and discuss the Buffyverse at large. Now let's meet up with the Scoobies and get into this episode of Flunking the Written.
What can I say? I flunked the written.
Alright, Kim, we are about to get into our discussion of Dead Man's Party, which was written by Marty Noxon and directed by James Whitmore Jr., and the DVD blurb is, a Nigerian mask that Buffy's mother has acquired from the gallery has the unique power of resurrecting the dead.
That just gives everything away, doesn't it?
Well, it's also like the most casual way of saying that, you know, the dead are coming back. It's just like, oh, it's just, you know, a unique ability that this mask has that was acquired from the gallery. Yes, let me sip my wine. Okay, so the episode starts off with Buffy in her room, unpacking, and then there's this kind of long pause where she just kind of soaks in that she's back, and she stares at the room. Then she immediately goes to her closet and grabs a sweater and is like, nope, I'm out of here. She goes to her mom's room. Her mom is working on hammering in a nail and is startled when Buffy comes in, and Joyce shows her own Slayer strength by just destroying the wall.
Right? How hard did she hit with that hammer? Or how weak and cheaply made is that wall?
Joyce says that she's just been used to the quiet. And also, here's a mask that is certainly not going to be crucial to the plot later on. I think those are her exact words.
Yeah, that mask is, like, why would you want that in your bedroom anyway? Like, it'd be interesting to see in a museum, but I mean, I wouldn't want to see it every night as I was falling asleep.
Yeah, I mean, I like creepy stuff, and I appreciate the creepy aesthetic, but there's certain areas that I don't want to be creepy, and my bedroom's definitely one of those. I don't want to wake up in the middle of the night, turn on my bedside lamp, and look up and see that.
Yeah.
Especially if I lived in Sunnydale.
So Buffy says that she's going out and going to try to find Willow and Xander, and her mom is very uncomfortable with it. But, I mean, I don't really blame her. Mm-hmm. I never actually thought about it when I watched it when I was younger. But, oh my gosh, if one of my kids did that, I wouldn't let them out of my sight for like a year. Yeah. Yeah, there would be no going to find friends.
Yeah.
And then there's a very awkward moment when Joyce asks if she will be slaying, since she thinks it's something that can be penciled in on the calendar.
Yeah. I do like that Joyce is overcompensating with food. I feel like that's a very nice love language that Joyce has. Just like, here's all the food.
All the food in the world.
So Joyce offers to drive Buffy, and Buffy kind of has her, you know, if you don't want me to go, just say so. And Joyce is like, no, just, I want things back to normal. And what we'll talk about a lot in this episode is Buffy's reaction to people, as almost like, there are times in this episode I feel like Buffy singles out just the worst parts of the way people are reacting around her. And I feel like the conflict of this episode works overall, and I feel like all of the characters, I understand their point of views more than I thought I did, because I just remember this is the episode where the big Scoobies blow up, and also they're zombies.
Yeah.
But Buffy's like, throughout this episode, I know it's like, Buffy's kind of looking for people to lash out at her, almost, it seems like. Like, I almost wonder if Buffy wants people, it's a weird thing, like, Buffy almost wants that catharsis that they get at the end of the episode when they all yell at each other. She almost wants that sooner than she gets it.
Well, I mean, she did like leave and abandon them and without words or anything, and they didn't know where she was. So I don't know if it's something she wants, but it's probably something she knows is going to happen. So she's looking for it.
Yeah, she's expecting it, and I don't know if she wants it either, but I think she anticipates it and would rather face it head on until it just keeps building and building and building, and she's just to the point where she's just like, it's not happening. I'm gonna just leave again at the end of the episode. And then it actually happens, and then things are kind of back to normal again. But it's a lot of like people avoiding their feelings here. And you'll see that, I mean, Joyce is obviously having a tremendous amount of feelings and is not really talking about them. She's just doing some interior decorating and making a lot of food.
Yeah.
And then talking about how she wants things to go back to normal. And then Buffy starts to, like, broach the subject. Like, Buffy's the one that almost, like, you know, you can just tell me. And Joyce is like, no, I just want, you know, you to have a good time. Go on. So I'm kind of watching for this. My notes are real jacked up on this episode because I watched it in 3 settings because that's the kind of week I've had.
Oh, wow.
So,
Okay.
so my thoughts of the episode are a little disjointed, but I feel like there's a certain amount of Buffy that's looking to have that moment, like is ready for that moment to come, like is asking for it at times. And in a way, I think her choice at the end of the episode to pack her bag might have been that final cry for just, you know, give me something. Quit pretending like everything's fine when clearly everything is not fine. But yeah, we'll get into that as the episode goes. But this is the first little hint of that, and I'm going to revisit that as we go through this episode with Buffy. Joyce says, go have a good time, and it's Buffy in the alley, where Buffy hears a noise, and there's a dark figure.
You can totally tell from the back is Xander. Like, even if you didn't know, you'd still be able to tell. Like, it was Xander.
Yeah.
It looked just like him.
But that's still not the most awkward part about this scene, because she comes up behind him and then just, like, steps on this soda can that just happens to be right in Xander's path that Xander managed to avoid so delicately, and Buffy just crunches into.
Yeah, like, why would she do that? There is a part in the script book where it says when Xander turned around, he tries to plunge the stake into her chest and she barely manages to stop it with her hands. And that kind of made me think of Faith and what happens later. About how easy it is for someone who is like fighting vampires and stuff. Not necessarily the Slayer, because this was Xander.
Yeah.
How easy that would have been. He could have killed Buffy.
Yeah.
You know?
When you're in that intensity, when the adrenaline's pumping, yeah. If it hadn't have been Buffy, but had been some other human that wasn't prepared for that, there is a good chance that Xander could have been in a very similar position that we later find Faith in.
Yes.
Because Buffy has, you know, the abilities to stop that. Not anybody else would have. So,
Except Faith.
Yeah, well... I like that he is accessorizing with crosses. Giant crosses.
Yeah.
That's brilliant, and I wish they did that more often. Like, just all the crosses, please. And, of course, you gotta mention it. Buffy points the stake towards Xander and says, didn't anybody ever warn you about playing with pointy sticks? It's all fun and games until somebody loses an eye.
Oops. Yeah.
I love Nicholas Brennan's performance here. Like, just the shock of seeing Buffy.
Oh, yeah.
Is really felt. And then he, like, starts to warm up as he realizes it's actually her and smile. And then, of course, it's interrupted by a vampire that bursts out of nowhere.
Yeah. Like, where was he?
Just squatting
Was he
in a
just,
box.
Yeah, like watching the show? Yeah. So the vampire, you know, kind of flies at them and jumps on them. And they kind of both start to fight it. And then we hear something on a walkie-talkie come in. And it's Cordelia. And she is referring to Xander as Nighthawk. Which I kind of like as a nickname. And I really wish they had shared what everyone else's nicknames were.
Yeah.
Because I think those would be fun to know. Obviously, Oz's would have to be something to do with a werewolf.
Yeah. It would have to be. The wolf would have to be somewhere in there.
And in the episode, we don't really see them, like the walkie-talkies and stuff. But in the script book, it says that they are supposed to be Fisher-Price toy-style walkie-talkies. The ones that are painted bright primary colors and stuff.
Those
and everyone knows what I'm talking about.
No range at all.
Right, but that's what it's supposed to be. Which I think would have been amazing if they had actually shown them.
Commit to the bit.
I was like, I actually rewound this scene. I was like, maybe I missed them. I want to see the Fisher-Price walkie-talkies. Then everyone else shows up. Cordelia and Willow and Oz, and they fight the vampire for a little while, and then Buffy stakes it. And the imagery they use here with all four of her friends on the ground, like panting from the fight, and her just standing there having staked the vampire, and they're all just staring at her. Mm-hmm. That is like perfect to show how awkward her homecoming is.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like I'm so fascinated with Xander and Buffy stuff this watch through, but technically speaking, Xander was the last one to see Buffy before she left, and the first one to see her other than Joyce when she comes back. And then you have all the others kind of rushed in there, and they're knocked down one by one, and then you have this pan over as it reveals. Even in this early pan over, you can already see some of the awkwardness, especially with Allison Hannigan's performance of, like, it takes a while before we get our first line of dialogue from Willow. Like, it takes a long bit because Willow is processing all of this like crazy. And I almost wish that they had even held out longer before Willow talked. And just
to make it more obvious.
Yeah, and just let Allison Hannigan be awkward in every scene because she's so good at it. But yeah, from there we cut to the Scoobies outside of Giles' apartment, and Buffy is nervous and asks what if he's mad and all of this stuff. Like, this is again like she's definitely like expecting a blow up.
Yeah, Xander gives her first little inkling that all is not well.
Yeah.
Even though he kind of phrases it as a joke.
Yeah. And like, it's interesting that Giles is the one that Buffy like explicitly says, you know, what if he's mad? Like,
yeah.
I don't think that she says that about really anybody else, even though I think she kind of expects it from everybody. But she explicitly says it about Giles. And Giles is the only person who's not present for the big blow up later on.
Well, Giles is the only person who's not conflicted about her return.
Yeah.
And is not upset about it or anything. He's just happy.
Mm-hmm. And I like that they have this little beat where she knocks on the door finally, and Giles opens it, and I just wrote, acting.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good.
There's nothing I could say about it other than the performances in this episode are great. And oh my god, this little bit and the little bit we get later in the kitchen of just Tony Head acting his ass off. It's so good. Xander has more banter.
Check it out. The watch is back on the clock. And just when you were thinking career change, maybe becoming a looker or a seer.
Which I think is hilarious.
It's a great
nobody
bit.
else thinks, nobody in the scene grinned or anything.
I get it. It's not the time, but still.
Oh, but it was so funny.
It's a great joke. And then eventually Giles just kind of says, welcome home, Buffy, and Buffy smiles. Aw. And then the Scoobies are on the couch, and there's the nice china on the coffee table.
Well, because yay.
I like how Giles brought out the nice china, and later on Joyce wants the
company
nice,
plates.
Yeah, the company plates, the nice plates. Like, everybody's bringing out their best. But yeah, they're all kind of talking a little bit, and Giles goes to get the tea. Oz casually mentions that Buffy isn't wanted for murder anymore.
Which is good. That's a good thing.
It's a good thing. It begs some questions, though, because we talked about perhaps the reason that the cops were the way they were was because they were under some kind of control. So is it just because she was out of town
that she wasn't wanted anymore?
A threat anymore. So the mayor was just like, okay, we'll just now change all of this to where we're not having to track her down across the country. She's not an issue anymore. Maybe that's a rationale about it, but I don't know that he would care to like take her from the most wanted list unless his cops are so like mind controlled that they would have literally followed her
across the country. Yeah.
They would have just traced her forever. He's like, dang it. Giles in the kitchen.
Oh yeah, I love that scene.
Oh god. That immense relief when Angelus turned back into Angel that Buffy felt before she realized that Akatha was still opening and all of that. It's kind of that same feeling, right? Of just that this has been Giles's like main driving force this entire summer. And we saw it in the last episode. This is what he's been spending all of his time doing, is looking for her, Buffy. And wow, it's a quiet, like, by himself moment of just Tony Head acting his ass off. It's great.
Yeah, it's really good.
And then he brings out the spread, and it looks really good too. My life would be complete if Giles were to serve me tea and biscuits.
Oh, I would love for Giles to serve me tea and biscuits. So they kind of have a conversation, and they want to know what she was up to all summer. And she just says, I don't want to talk about it. It's a long story, you know. Mm-hmm. Which they talk about they talk about them taking over the slaying while she was gone, and they offer to keep doing it, and she says she wants to get back to her routine, and then ask who wants to hang out tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And Xander immediately says, yeah, no, I'm busy. And then Buffy asks Willow, who is not sure, and then at that point Buffy gets kind of pushy. Mm-hmm. Which, you know, read the room.
Yeah.
And Willow kind of says she'll rearrange her plans and she'll hang out because she's Willow and she pleases everyone. And then Giles mentions about the principal, and that's pretty much it. That was the conversation. Which this is where we get the feeling that all is not going to be happy, back together again, friends forever type stuff in this episode.
They're not entirely gelling. I will say, when Cordelia talks about how the outfits suck and that the whole Rambo thing is so over, earlier in my notes, I didn't mention it then because I wrote it before we got to this line. I wrote, man, does Cordelia look awesome in that outfit? I'm just like, I'm so sad that she said, why would she do that to me? She looks so good. The Willow is particularly, like, awkward and uncomfortable in this scene. And the pushiness that Buffy has to, it's almost like, you know, hey, I'm back, rearrange your life for me. I don't feel like it's as on the nose as some of the other times where Buffy's kind of like looking for conflict. I feel like that may be more of like, this is what I expected from Willow in the past, and what Willow kind of was always for me. Like, she was kind of that person that I could just be like, okay, let's hang out. And she was like, yeah, sure. But Willow has her whole bit at the end of the episode, and we've seen even in the last episode how much Willow has grown and changed and how much more is in Willow's life than just, you know, the absence of Buffy. So I think that that's a nice little seed planted of, like, Willow being like, I've got other things going. Like, I feel like Xander, maybe, not to put the worst light on Xander, but I think Xander is perhaps making up excuses a little bit more than, like, Willow probably legitimately had stuff going on. Whereas Xander, I'm not sure, because there's just that weird exchange between him and Cordelia when he's just like, oh, I'm busy. And Willow seems to, like, legitimately, like, no, I've got plans. But she's still Willow. Like, she still, like, says, oh, I'll try, you know, I'll rearrange what I got going on. I'll rearrange my schoolwork so we can hang out. But it's like, you can't just force things back to normal. And I think, in a weird way, that's what Willow and Buffy are trying to do for a chunk of this episode. Willow especially is kind of just trying to force things to be normal when they can't be, or avoiding it when she knows it could be a situation where she'll actually have to talk about how she's feeling.
So the next scene is when Buffy and her mom are in Snyder's office, and they're discussing Buffy coming back to school, and Snyder is being incredibly obnoxious. Mm-hmm. Joyce is saying, you know, you don't have the right to keep her out of school, and Snyder is saying, I do have the right and the pleasure, you know. And then he says what I think might be the only funny thing that Snyder ever says.
Buffy was cleared of all those charges.
Yes. And while she may live up to the not a murder requirement for enrollment, she is a troublemaker.
That always struck me as funny, and he's not usually very funny. Then he makes some jokes about her working at Hot Dog on a Stick, and they leave, and Joyce threatens him that it's not over. If I have to, I'll go all the way to the mayor. And as they leave, Principal Snyder says, wouldn't that be interesting? And it kind of makes me wonder, maybe the mayor does know who Buffy is. Mm-hmm. Like, because that kind of makes it seem like the mayor is aware of Buffy and who she is.
Well, I mean, it would It would have to be, right? Because, like, Snyder even called after he expelled Buffy. He was like, did I do good, Mayor? Did I do good?
Yeah, but we've talked a couple of times about how situations happen where we're not sure if the mayor knows. It doesn't seem like he knows.
For sure who, like, if Buffy's the Slayer or what. Yeah. This may be a state-by-state thing, but, like, in what reality does, like, the mayor and the city council have any power over a school?
Don't. They don't.
Like, Joyce is just like, I'm going to take this to the mayor. And I'm just like, what would that do?
Well, she should have said the school board and then the superintendent and then the school board.
Yeah. Truthfully. And it'll happen again later. But anyway, there's some weird understanding of how these power structures work. But okay. So yeah, from there, we get our whole little, like, first main street of...
well, before we do that, there is a scene that was removed.
Okay, well, I'll let you do that first.
Okay. So, as Buffy and Joyce come out of Snyder's office, there is a scene with Giles in the hallway. And it says they come out into the hall, and Giles, who has been lingering but trying not to look like he's been lingering, approaches. And he says, well, how did it go? And Joyce says, have you ever noticed his teeth? They're like tiny little rodent teeth. And Giles says, oh, dear. Joyce, horrible, gnashing little teeth. You just want to pull them out with pliers. And Giles says, perhaps there's some way he can be overruled. And at this point, they move away from Buffy talking, and the bell rings, and we see all these students, like, moving with purpose around Buffy as she just stands there.
Aw, that would have been a nice visual. I love, like, Joyce's just complete 180 on Snyder, because there was a couple of times in season 2 where she kind of went more to Snyder's defense than Buffy, even though Buffy, like, explained, like, oh, he got it out for me. But, like, now Joyce is just like, I hate that man, I hate that man, I hate that man. It's great.
Yeah, she's not a fan. Definitely not a fan, but nobody is once they have more interactions with him.
That poor sweet Snyder. So then we go to our little, like, what the one street that exists in all of Sunnydale that will, I think, get developed a little bit more later on. But right now we've got the Espresso Pump. Is that that's the name of the coffee shop. Joyce pulls up to it and is talking about maybe private school, and I like the line that Buffy says about, what about homeschooling? You know, it's not just for scary religious people anymore.
Yeah. Well, we're not scary religious people.
For the record, anybody listening, Kim homeschools her kids, and I was homeschooled myself. So Buffy is kind of just outside the espresso pump and is all sad because Willow stood her up. And it's one of many shots of Buffy just kind of being sad.
Yeah. It's a very melancholy scene.
Yes.
Which... then we have Buffy walking up to her house, and a very frumpy woman walks out and starts talking to Buffy, very familiar, like she knows her. And she is Pat from Joyce's book club. And says how she looked after Joyce while Buffy was off and away. And Buffy kind of rolls her eyes about it a little bit. Yeah. And then... she says, between your situation and reading Deep End of the Ocean, she was just a wreck, you can imagine. Which, Deep End of the Ocean is literally... okay, I've read it. It's been a really long time, and it's about a little boy who's kidnapped and separated from his mom for years, I believe.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, why would she join a book club that's reading that book?
Well, yeah, why that? Like,
why not?
I wanted that book club being like, maybe
we should read something else.
Read something else. So then Pat is like, she has to take off so she can go make empanadas at her Spanish class. Already, I'm gonna mention this a couple of times, but already Pat has like huge Ted vibes. And even like in the next scene when Buffy enters in, she's like mentions Pat just the same way that she would mention Ted. She's just like, oh, Pat was here. It's like, oh, Ted was around. And I have often, and many other people in the Buffy fandom have talked about both Spike's and Faith's bisexual energy that they have. But in this episode, man, I felt Joyce's bisexual energy.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that I ship Joyce and Pat, and we're going to move on.
Oh, really? No. I ship Joyce and Giles.
I think Pat would have been good for Joyce. Buffy wouldn't have had a great time with it, but
she gives me Ted personality vibes.
Yeah, I mean, he's like
not creepy, but like
she's got a type though.
Yeah, she does have a type, but not creepy, but like that cringy, overly familiar. Mm-hmm. I should not be saying this yet to this person type.
Yeah,
vibe. Yeah.
Well, and it honestly, this is a deeper conversation than I expected this to go, but it honestly wonders if that's like because Joyce is so closed off that she needs someone who's gonna be that aggressively friendly to even kind of make a connection with somebody, because she's not gonna try to make a connection with other people without them making the first move. Mm-hmm. So maybe she just needs very aggressively friendly people in order to make friends. So anyway, yeah, Buffy enters the kitchen, and Joyce says that Willow was held up, but she called, and Buffy's like, well, did she leave a message? And again, like Buffy's got a lot of passive-aggressive stuff going on within her.
Yeah.
She's just like, she's ready for something.
Okay, so there's a moment there when Buffy asks Joyce, was there a message? Uh-huh. Where Joyce gets this look on her face, like she knows something she doesn't want to tell Buffy. Like she's hiding something. Okay. That is like the impression I get.
Oh.
And it's like, well, I know that Willow was not gossiping about Buffy to Joyce. Mm-hmm. So what happened or what was said, because she really looks like there's something she doesn't want Buffy to know, or she doesn't want to tell Buffy. Like, oh.
One thing that I think that Willow might have done, and she may have not even said it explicitly, but may have just given the projection, or Joyce was able to recognize it because Joyce could kind of feel the same, is something along the lines of, you know, I'm just not ready to see Buffy yet, or like I'm not ready to have that one-on-one talk with her yet. I don't think she would have said those words exactly, but I think that she could have maybe in her conversation with Joyce said something, or because Willow's not good at lying. I'm not sure if you realize this about Willow. She's not good at lying. So she was just like, oh, something came up, and like, I tell Buffy I'll see her when it is convenient for the two of us to have discourse. So I feel like Joyce could have kind of had a read on that for sure. But I didn't notice any kind of look on Joyce when she said that. So, but I like that headcanon that's now in my head that Joyce and Willow are at least connected enough at this point that Joyce maybe has felt that Willow's not in a place where she's ready to confront her emotions about Buffy either. I think that's where a lot of people are right now. But yeah, Joyce does say that Joyce suggests inviting Willow, Giles, and everybody over for dinner. And again, Buffy doesn't really respond. She kind of just like looks down, and she does that a little bit of just like everything's awkward, everything's uncomfortable. And then Joyce fesses up that she already did. And so Buffy's like, okay, it'll be fun. And this is when we get to the company plates.
Mom, Willow and everybody aren't company plate people. They're normal plate people.
One of, like, the more sincere moments I think we've had between Buffy and Joyce is this little exchange where Joyce is just like, we never have guests over. Indulge your mother.
Yeah.
Again,
Buffy.
Interior decorating and food.
Yeah. So Buffy goes down to the basement to get the company plates, which company plates when I was growing up were kept in the two little useless cabinets over the refrigerator that are in every house.
I was thinking they have like a hutch in their dining room. That would be a logical place to store plates.
The China hutch, yeah. To the nice plates.
Seems like that's kind of in the name. When she goes to get the cardboard box that they put at the top of the shelf to hold the nice fragile plates in, she gets distracted because she sees a picture. It's a framed picture. A very large print of this very kind of awkward picture. Buffy and Willow are pretty cute in there, but like Xander's just like, his eyes are almost completely rolled back as he's like looking up at Buffy and hugging her legs. And it's just like, is that the picture that you would print and frame?
Mm-hmm.
Just like, that seems more like the silly printout that you have on your mirror, but like framed?
Like taped to it, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, again, another sad Buffy moment where she just sits and stares for a second, and then she reaches up for the box, and something falls down, and it's a dead cat.
Lovely, lovely dead cat.
Lovely.
And it's a very bloody dead cat, too.
Yeah,
and
it was clearly like mauled and then climbed into the basement somehow to die.
But here's the thing. How did they not know there was a dead cat in the basement? Did they never go in the basement? Did they not smell the smell coming from the basement?
Sure. Now, their like laundry is downstairs in the basement, right? That's where they go to wash their clothes. So they have to occasionally go down into the basement. Otherwise, they just have a whole lot of
and that
dirty
basement
clothes.
is not so big. Yeah, that basement is not so big that you would not smell a decaying cat.
Oh, I mean, I've had like an animal climb underneath my house and die before, and the entire house reeked.
Yeah, something like a mouse
And it's like,
will stink the entire house up.
and also, you know, it's California. It's the like beginning of the school year, so it's hot.
It has been hot. Yeah.
It does not smell good in that basement.
Yeah, but nobody thought to. Well, I guess it was just Joyce over the summer. She didn't think to go check.
All right, so they're outside. Buffy's digging a grave, and Joyce places the cat in the ground. It has been wrapped up in a plastic bag. I don't like that. Let that cat return to the earth. Don't seal it up in a bag. Just planting plastic in your garden. What are you doing? Think of the environment. Joyce asks Buffy.
Yeah, and think of growing things in your garden with that plastic there.
Joyce asks if Buffy wants to say something.
Like what? Thanks for stopping by and dying.
This is the start of Buffy's real, like, sarcastic phase of the episode. I feel like most of her dialogue for the next little bit is just sarcastic comments. And then Joyce says, "How about goodbye, stray cat who lost its way? We hope you find it."
Which makes you wonder if she was talking about Buffy.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. And Buffy again has a moment where she's just like, aw. And then she proceeds to bury the cat.
Oh, they bury the cat, and we cut to the next scene, and it's Buffy getting into bed, and it shows her going to sleep. Then we see Joyce in her room, and it cuts to the mask, whose eyes start to glow. And then we see the ground where the cat was buried start to move, and a paw comes out, and then a zombie cat.
Mm-hmm. Not currently wrapped in a plastic bag.
Not wrapped in a yes, he definitely not declawed because that cat got out of the plastic bag. And then the eyes in the mask burn bright red, and the cat runs across the yard to try to get into Joyce's room again. Or try to get into Joyce's room for the first time, I guess.
Wouldn't it have been hilarious if the cat was the one to get to the mask? And it was just this cat running around with this demon face, blinding people.
Oh boy. Buffy has one of her dreams. She's alone at the school, walking through the school, and then Angel comes up and stands beside her, and they talk about people waiting for Buffy. And Angel says, "You better go." And Buffy says, "I'm scared." And Angel says, "You should be." Mm-hmm. Which really doesn't have anything to do with this episode. But, it was in there.
Well, I think it shows what we already know. And it's a way to get David Boreanaz in the episode. But it shows that, like, even though she's here, she's not really ready to be here and to, like, be back with everybody. And that fear that she has, which is shown again and again and again when she was afraid outside of Giles's apartment, and even the chance that she would want to Ray again at the end of the episode is perhaps a call for help or a call for yell at me, let's actually have this, or it could just be her being so afraid of everything that's going on and just ready to bail again. But I had a thought during this sequence of like, man, wouldn't it have just been the, like, most horrendous thing if they just didn't ever bring Angel back, and this is the only way that we got Angel throughout the entire of the season. It was just him in Buffy's dreams. Constantly Buffy's psyche as represented by Angel. Wouldn't that have just been the worst, but also potentially the best?
I'm trying to decide how I feel about that idea. I don't know.
But that's the thought I had during this.
Yeah.
Anyway, the school bell rings and it transitions to Buffy's alarm as she wakes up. And I'm sorry, but what teenager sets an alarm when they're not in school?
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, she doesn't have to be anywhere. Why is she setting her alarm for 7 a.m.?
So in this next scene, we cut to the kitchen and Buffy's just kind of staring in the fridge and is completely zoned out. And I liked this little moment because I feel like it echoes a lot of the stuff that they did in season 6 when Buffy's dealing with depression and she just kind of zones out and stares at a point. And I don't know like why it's so impactful for me, but anytime they're just like, okay, Sarah, go in this corner and stare. And I just look at them just like, damn, that's powerful. Joyce is talking and apparently she actually did go to the superintendent, which good on her.
At least he seems more reasonable than that nasty little hard bigoted rodent man.
And then she also mentions a private school, which Buffy recognizes as an all-girls school, and gets very upset about that. And this is where Joyce has her first potential little blow-up, where she starts off with, Buffy, you made some bad choices. You just might have to live with some consequences. But then she, like, immediately is just like, oh, but it's not your fault. You have special circumstances. They should make allowances for you. Like, I mean, she immediately, like, goes back to that kind of avoiding confrontation as soon as she realizes that she's started that. And, yeah, I mean, Joyce continues to talk about, like, telling Snyder and the police. And then she's just like, you'd think they would be happy to have a superhero. And then she's just like, is that the right term? I mean, it's not offensive, is it? And that's when I was just like, this is what they try to be woke on.
Yeah.
This, after Buffy just said, it's not like I have to ride the little bus to school. This is what they think might be the offensive term in this conversation. Joyce goes to take out the garbage, and it's the dead kitty who runs in.
Who runs back in and immediately goes to Joyce's room.
Mm-hmm. I wrote in my notes, I call him Snuggles, before I remembered that Oz names him later in the episode.
Yeah, Oz names him Patches.
I like both names, Snuggles and Patches. Snuggly Patches, that's the full name. So Giles enters the front door. Buffy's like, welcome to the Hellmouth Petting Zoo. Again, like a lot of just Buffy sass in this section. Giles is, I guess, getting the cat out from under Joyce's bed, I think. Which is weird because I feel like the cat should be going after the mask, and shouldn't be hiding under the bed.
I mean, it is a cat. It probably still recognizes that these people are going to catch me.
How much of the essence of the cat is still in the zombie? That's what I want to know. That's the deep dive that we need to go into. Joyce and Giles kind of have this awkward moment, which is nice coming off of their actual confrontation from last episode, but then they just start making small talk about the mask, and Buffy's all like, okay, we need to stop doing this, let's go do research. And it's kind of, you find out when she gets to the point is trying to prevent Buffy from being upset about not being allowed on school property, but Giles stays with Joyce, and Joyce is like, no, go with Giles. So it's kind of interesting that Giles is saying that to kind of protect Buffy's feelings, but I'm wondering, like, Joyce saying go with Giles, if that's almost like I don't want to get into another conversation that could lead to an argument right now. But yeah, Giles drops the bomb that she's not allowed on school property. And again, we get a little, like, sad Buffy. She's just having a rough time this episode. And Giles leaves with the cat. His new pet, Patches.
New pet.
Snuggly Patches. Oz immediately is vibing with this cat.
It looks dead. It smells dead. Yet it's moving around. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And he's like right up on that cage too. He's just like, yes.
Yeah. So zombie cat, which is, I find it real interesting this episode. I have always had a fear of zombies. I mean, not if someone's dressed up as one for Halloween, that doesn't bother me, but like zombie movies and zombie shows like Dawn of the Dead and well, any of them, The Walking Dead or whatever, they terrify me. I think it's because they swarm.
Yeah.
They never ever bothered me in this episode. Like, they don't scare me in this episode.
So I
don't really know why.
I have an idea, but we'll get to that when we get to the zombies.
Okay.
No,
well, because it's a zombie cat.
Yeah,
so.
this zombie cat is adorable. I would definitely have the zombie cat as a pet. It's my precious little snuggly patches. But yeah, Cordelia says, "Do you like anything normal?" And Giles says he's not planning on taking it home as a pet, and I disagree. And this is when Oz says that they should call it Patches. And Willow is worried about the dinner, saying that Joyce is counting on them to bring stuff. Cordelia says that she's the dip because it's stirring and not cooking. It's what she brings. And then, we just got to play the Oz breakdown of different types of parties. That sound clip's got to go in there.
Oh, yeah.
Well, gathering is brie, mellow song stylings. Shindig, dip. Less mellow song stylings, perhaps a large amount of malt beverage. And hootenanny. Well, it's chock full of hoot, just a little bit of nanny.
So after Oz educates the room,
yes,
Xander's like, a gathering is going to be too mellow. Like, what would we talk about? And Willow suggests that, Dingoes Ate My Baby play at the party. And Giles starts to kind of be the voice of reason and says this is probably not what Buffy needs, but then immediately goes along with them anyway and doesn't even, suggest maybe talking to Joyce, who is in fact the homeowner of this
and planning the gathering.
Like actually the person planning the gathering.
Which I have several things to say about this gathering later. I've got some notes.
Oh man. And then you have this little scene where Giles flips through a page without actually looking at it, and we see the mask. Ooh. And then it fades to Buffy in her pink dress. Buffy wears a lot of pastel colors in this episode, and this is when I it really sunk in. Like, almost everything she wears is like a pastel blue or a pastel pink. And I almost wonder if that's a wardrobe choice to kind of show that Buffy's, again, trying to fake that things are normal and happy when they're not, by like choosing those things to wear. So Buffy's sitting at the table and the doorbell rings, and it's Pat. She comes bearing empanadas. And this is where, like, Joyce comes down the stairs, and Pat and Joyce, I think it's supposed to be like a peck on the cheek kind of kiss, but the angle that it's shot on, it looks like a full-on kiss, and I'm just like, still, that bisexual energy is just all over that.
Yeah, I did not notice that. It just looked like a greeting kiss to me. I did not see it.
The doorbell rings again, and this time it's Devin who's asking Buffy where she wants the band to set up, and she's just like, the band? And then we cut to the hootenanny.
Yes. At this hootenanny, there are a drink table with multiple drinks set up. Mm-hmm. There is food tables with tons of food set up. Mm-hmm. And paper products and all this stuff. Now, where did all this stuff come from? Because Joyce was planning a dinner party. And I know these teenagers did not do that. They did not coordinate enough to bring the snacks and the drinks.
It was all Willow.
And all that. That just did not happen.
It was all Willow.
You think it was all Willow?
She came up with boxes of party supplies just ready to go. Dingoes Ate My Baby is indeed playing. It's actually 4-Star Mary, who is our band that plays all of the Dingoes Ate My Baby song. I'm just going to list the 3 songs that they play because it's kind of intermixed and hard to bring up. They play Sway, Nevermind, and then Pain, which is interesting because it's a repeat. It's been played in a previous episode. So I thought that was cool.
Oh, interesting.
Willow's in full groupie mode, jamming out right near the band, and Buffy goes to talk to her. Oh, she's into it.
She is determined to be a groupie. Yeah. In this episode. Like, okay, Willow.
Buffy kind of says, she hoped it would have just been them, and Willow is just like, can't hear you over the band. Just keeps pointing at her ears anytime Buffy tries to talk, and good on Buffy for at least, like, going back and asking Willow to come with her and then asking if everything is okay. Because this is one of the few times that we've seen anybody really in this episode actually try to talk about their feelings. And yeah, Willow is super deflecting all of this suspicion that Buffy has, which is totally accurate. Like, Buffy is asking, is everything okay? Are we cool? And Willow is just like, oh, I'm not avoiding you. We're totally cool. And this is just a big party to say that we're glad that you're back. And wow. Did I mention that Willow's not good at lying?
No, not at all.
Buffy kind of just says okay, and Willow leaves to go be a groupie some more.
Yeah.
And then we get the first of many random cuts of this mask with its glowing eyes. And this time we go to a local crime scene, and a dead body's just like chilling there, and its eyes open. And then we're back to the party.
Yeah, Buffy is kind of not sure what to do after her conversation with Willow, so she turns a corner and walks right into Xander and Cordelia, who are making out. In the script book, it says they are in heavy petting mode, which I'm like, what? It's the teenage show.
Yeah.
Like, on the air.
Just
Let's
like,
just go with kissing.
Ew.
Yeah. She tries to leave, but Xander sees her and is like, hey, Buffy.
That's weird, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Why would you stop kissing your girlfriend to say hi to Buffy?
Yeah, it's weird, right?
And the way Xander acts in this scene is incredibly, I don't even know the word for it. He's kind of obnoxious.
Yeah.
Like, he's got in his voice, everything he says sounds kind of condescending.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And it doesn't really make sense, like, why he's trying to force this. Because he has an obvious thing to distract him there. Why,
right?
Like, Buffy did not come to confront him about any of this. So he's not trying to be like, oh yeah, everybody's super excited to have you back. And Buffy's just like, yeah, even people I didn't know. And Xander's just like, yeah, those people too. Like, it's one of those things where he's having this like forced conversation with Buffy that Buffy didn't ask for, while Cordelia is just macking on him. And I'm just like, would this happen? Couldn't you have just had a moment where Buffy saw them and was just like, okay, they're clearly more interested in each other than me being back. I'll just keep moving on, and had essentially the same effect.
Yeah.
So you have this really awkward exchange. Xander tries to get Cordelia's attention to like say that she's also happy that Buffy's back, and she's just like, oh yeah, totally. But then says that, she was starting to get used to Xander and his whole boy slayer look, and then calls him Nighthawk, and then they continue to make out.
Yeah, and Buffy is not happy with that conversation.
I like how
you can tell
she starts to like maybe politely excuse herself, and then she's like, nah, okay, I'll leave it. And then we have the mask again. This time we cut to a hospital. They're calling a burn victim. And he gets up and attacks them all.
He looks horrible.
He
too.
does. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not sure if I would have spent a lot of time trying to resuscitate that one. It looks pretty rough.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we're back to the hootenanny. I love these cuts. They're so good.
Yeah, in the script book, none of them are in that order. All of those cuts that we just did, they were all mixed up.
Nice.
That's why you keep hearing pages turn. So then we have Joyce and Pat in the kitchen, right? That's next.
Yep.
And they find a drink to drink, and it's peach schnapps. Mm-hmm. And then Pat does her little thing. How are you holding up? Buffy kind of she's walking toward the kitchen, and she hears the end of what Joyce says, which is basically that it's almost worse having Buffy home than it was with her gone. Mm-hmm. Kind of meaning it's in the first couple of days. It's awkward. We haven't worked through it yet. Mm-hmm. So it's worse, and it's going to be worse until it happens, which is what I assume she meant.
Yeah.
But that's all Buffy hears, and she goes up to her room and starts packing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I wrote Buffy overhears because of course she does.
Yes, of course she does.
So the mask glows again. We get a nice shot of zombies just approaching the camera, headed towards the Summers household. And then we're at the library, and Giles finds that page that he missed before, and he calls the Summers house, and a lovely partygoer very politely answers the phone for the Summers while talking about how someone has to do a shot.
So in the script book, he is described as Stoner Dude.
Stoner Dude. Nice.
Stoner Dude.
Giles asks for Buffy. The Stoner Dude asks for a bunny to the room. Nobody answers, because I'm pretty sure nobody even heard him if he had gotten the right name.
Right. And he's very pushing that this guy has to do a shot. In my notes here, I've just got high school.
Yeah.
Like, where did they get this liquor?
Yeah, Willow got
it's
it.
Like magical liquor with magical snacks and paper products and stuff. That's, yeah.
Willow got it.
Willow, really?
She's changed a lot over the summer.
Yeah. Probably Oz got it.
But anyway, eventually the stoner guy just hangs up on Giles, and Giles immediately goes into action.
Well, of course.
Yes. And then we have this scene with all the tears. Mm-hmm. All the tears were had in this scene. Willow comes in and sees Buffy packing and immediately confronts her very aggressively, which is about damn time, and says, "Are you leaving again? Well, don't forget to not write." And yeah, there's just a bunch of exchange where Buffy's like, "I'm trying," and Willow's like, "Well, it looks like you're giving up." And Buffy says, "You don't know what I've been going through." And Willow finally starts to open up and says, "I'd like to." And then there's this back and forth about them avoiding having this conversation. And Willow says that, I've been going through stuff too. And it's not just not having you around. It's just like, I'm dating a werewolf. I'm studying witchcraft. I'm killing vampires. And I didn't have anyone to talk to about all this scary life stuff. And you were my best friend. And there's just tears everywhere. Everybody has all the tears in this scene.
Mm-hmm. In the scene, there's a line after Willow gives her little speech about how she's doing witchcraft and dating a werewolf and didn't have anyone to talk to about all this scary life stuff. Mm-hmm. And then there's a line that was cut out, and it says, "Then you came back and you didn't even ask about me. You just worried about whether or not I was mad at you." Which, I know that line wasn't in the episode. As I read the script first, and then I watched the episode, and I was waiting for it. I didn't remember it from, having watched it before. And it didn't happen. I was like, well, maybe they realized it wasn't true, because Willow never gave her a chance to ask about it. Willow was literally never alone with Buffy.
Yeah.
Or even, beside her. Mm-hmm. At all.
Yeah.
So she didn't have a chance to ask. Which, Buffy made some bad decisions, but that wasn't one of them.
Well, and I think, if the earlier stuff had been different, I think that line could have been handled really well, because that is something that I think, since the show is structured in a way that Buffy is kind of the center of everything, she is the main focus and everybody else is just a satellite around her kind of stuff, that we tend to give her all the focus and don't give other people the focus of we're developing individuals as well. And having Willow call that out in this scene, she's just like, this isn't just about you, it's about me and the stuff that's changing in my life and the stuff that I'm going through. And had there been an exchange where Buffy and Willow had a conversation and Willow had started to talk about something and Buffy had pushed away from that conversation, and then this line would have been delivered, I think that would have been a really good line. But I don't really see that as a scenario. So yeah, it's just kind of a line that I think was written into the script, and then fortunately somebody caught it and was just like, no, that's not true. And I don't think that would have been true had they even, because Buffy was the one who didn't want to talk about the stuff that happened over the summer. She would have very happily, I think, listened to Willow if that meant that she didn't have to talk about her summer.
Right.
So this is the beginning of the blow up, right? This is the start of it between Willow and Buffy. And, this episode is a lot about people not talking about their feelings until people talk about their feelings a whole bunch. And here they're having this. And I feel like they're getting really close to having a moment that would really break through some walls and really make them okay with each other again. Like, I feel like if they had been uninterrupted for just like a minute or two longer, then Buffy and Willow would have figured out a way to just be fine in the conversation there, because they were getting somewhere with it. They were actually talking about their feelings and getting somewhere with it. But then like later, Willow like completely does a 180 again and is just furious at Buffy. So it's like, this is the start of the blow up, and had it just been this scene and they didn't really mess with Willow again later, I think that this would have been a fine start, and then it escalated, because obviously Joyce and Xander have both shown to be more hot-headed than Willow is. But the whole line later where Willow is just like, you know, might as well try violence. I'm just like, Willow. I know you said you were trying to be sarcastic, but Willow.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I just wrote for this next scene Giles' line, because we all know the line, and we all know I'm going to play the sound clip for it. But Giles' line.
Do you like my mask? Isn't it pretty? It raises the dead. Americans.
Oh, love it. And I don't know, have you seen the masks with that?
I have.
On it? I came very close to buying one. But then I was like, you know, maybe it's not appropriate with It Raises the Dead, considering what's going on. Yeah. So I didn't. Yeah. But yeah, I really thought about it.
There's a fine line there, but it is. I was very excited when I first saw it. It's like, oh my God. And then I was just like,
yeah, maybe not. But I know that they have it.
So while driving in his wonderful Giles mobile, he hits a zombie. Doesn't realize it's a zombie at first, checks on him, then realizes that it's a zombie and gets grabbed by said zombie, and then 3 more zombies show up.
Yeah, I don't know that I would have stopped. Like, he knows that there are now zombies, that this mask is raising the dead. I don't think I would have stopped.
Or at least the guy not like gotten so close to check the body.
Or, yeah, with my car so far away and taking my keys out. Who takes their keys out of the car for that?
Yeah.
You just leave them in the car.
The keys thing's real dumb.
Like, why would he even turn the car off and take them out of the ignition?
He's got to save on that gas.
So, yeah, he's trying to get back in the car. He finally gets in and locks the door. And then he realizes the keys are on the pavement outside. So, with shades of Ripper happening, he hotwires his car.
Shades of Ripper. Yeah. God. Yes. We finished that scene up a little prematurely, but it's okay, because there's just a lot of cuts in this last section. And honestly, we got to Shades of Ripper, and I'm happy about that. Yeah, we go back from Giles to the scene between Buffy and Willow. And Buffy's like, you know, I wanted to call every day. Like, they're still kind of in that conversation. And Joyce enters. And she's mad. She's just...
Well, she's not mad till she sees the bag on the bed.
Yeah, and but I mean, she comes in and, what is this? And then Willow says that she was running away again. And there's a confrontation between Buffy and Joyce. Where Buffy's just like, I'm not sure. And Joyce is like, get sure.
Yeah.
And a lot of Buffy's commentary through a lot of this is just, I don't know. Like, you know, basically, I don't know over and over again. Anytime anybody asks or, you know, confronts her in any way, she's like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm feeling. I don't know how to deal. I don't know what I'm doing. All of this. She runs downstairs.
Basically trying to get away.
Yeah. Just trying to get, like, out of that situation. Joyce follows using the don't you dare leave this house young lady bit again, which didn't work the last time, so I'm not sure what she was thinking she was going to do this time. The party stops around them. Band stops playing. Everybody kind of starts watching, and it gets more and more awkward as this progresses.
And you can see in the background some people try to leave.
Yeah.
Like there's people who are like, oh yeah, we're going to go now.
But yeah, Joyce is full confrontation mode and says that Buffy put her through the ringer and she's had schnapps.
Which is true.
And yeah, Joyce is saying, you know, do you have any idea what it's been like? Months of not knowing if you were dead in a ditch or living it up. And when she says this, she's so angry, and this prompts Buffy's response of, you told me, you said if I leave, don't come back. You found out who I really was and you couldn't deal.
A lot of the stuff in this scene seems very reminiscent of someone coming out.
Yeah, I was about to say, it feels like we're doing that again. I feel like this is better because it's not as much of a jokey ha-ha.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of a
serious.
I'm not who you expected me to be. But also, as this progresses, there's a lot that's revealed in front of this crowd of people.
Well, they don't get specific about it.
Well,
just that she's different.
Yeah,
like
that
I would be surprised if like the next week at school there's not a rumor that Buffy's gay.
Well,
that if this conversation was overheard today, that would be exactly what everyone would be talking about.
And sure, that works until Cordelia gets to her bit, but we'll get there in just a second. Joyce is just like, I'm not perfect, and you're punishing me for my mistake. And Buffy's like, I didn't do this to punish you. And Xander's like, well, you did. You should have seen what you put her through. So this is when Xander jumps in, and then Buffy asks for other volunteers, and Jonathan's like, I'm good.
There was a really small scene earlier at the party cutout where Jonathan is trying to hit on a girl, and she's having none of it. And we find out he has a moped.
Aww.
But it's not really it was just like a real quick 1 or 2 line thing.
So yeah, then Xander flat out calls Buffy selfish and stupid.
Yeah, things escalate.
Buffy's like, I screwed up. I know this. You have no idea what happened or what I was feeling. And Xander is like, did you try to talk? And I'm just like, I'm pretty sure she tried to make plans with both you and Willow.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this whole evening was going to be a quiet dinner party where you would have an opportunity to talk with each other, and you decided to make it a hootenanny.
See, I think he meant before she left. I got the impression that he meant, did you even talk to anybody before you ran away?
Yeah, that reflects here because Buffy's like, I couldn't, I had to deal with this on my own. And this is when Xander's like, you can't just bury stuff, it'll always come right back up to get you. And this is when we have the little bit where Giles realizes that his keys are still in the road, and then he hotwires the car and says, like, riding a bloody bicycle, and drives off. This is the actual, like, moment where they take time to go back to Becoming Part 1 and talk about the way that Xander was acting in Becoming Part 1, when Buffy's just like, Xander made his feelings completely clear about her and Angel, and that Xander's like, I'm sorry your honey was a demon. So that's something.
Yep.
Could be.
That's not good.
Could just be a
figure of speech.
Slur or some sort,
Yeah.
jerk, demon, sure. But then Cordy goes on to put herself in Buffy's shoes and says, okay, I'm a freak of nature and I need a freak for a boyfriend. Turns out to go into like a killing spree, which is my fault.
Get out of my shoes.
Right. Well, nothing Cordelia says could be, they could just assume she was dating a serial killer.
Yeah. Going into a killing spree feels like it's a bit of a drop for this crowd.
Yeah. But also, this is Sunnydale where everyone forgets everything immediately.
Oh, yeah. Obviously. We don't have to worry about any of this. And Cordelia's like, I'm just trying to help. Which, again, going back to Becoming Part 1, there was a moment there where Cordelia, again, was trying to be a little bit of a mediator. She's not very good at it yet. She's not very developed, but you can see that that's kind of instinctually there. She just doesn't know what words to say or how to, it's that whole tact thing again. Willow starts to say something, and Buffy says that she can't take it from her too. Xander, in pretty typical Xander fashion, anytime anybody cuts off Willow or steps on Willow's toes, gets very upset.
Well, yeah, I was going to point out that he defends Willow here, but he does not defend Cordelia.
Yeah, absolutely. And, man, it escalates real bad here between Buffy and Xander, and they even, like, approach each other, like, sizing each other up, and enough so that Oz gets nervous and feels like he needs to step in.
Which is odd, because Xander knows that she can kick his butt.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, what are you doing, Xander?
It's real dumb. But also, like, I kind of buy it, because Xander's sometimes real dumb.
Yeah, true.
And then this is the line that I feel like Willow is kind of weird on. She's just like, no, let them go. You know, talking about it isn't helping. Might as well try some violence.
And then a zombie breaks through the living room.
It's clearly a line set up to just have a zombie smash through the window, but like...
A living room window that is like, I swear, broken at least 3 times every season.
Oh, easy.
At least.
They finally made comments on it in season 7.
Yeah, I feel like that takes too long for him to make comments about this.
Yeah. I'm just glad that they wrote in the whole Xander going into construction, because that explains so much in like the later seasons of how they were able to repair stuff.
Yeah.
So immediately, as zombies are attacking and, you know, snapping stoner guys' necks and stuff like that, Buffy goes into action, throws like a fire stoker poker thingy
at Xander.
To Xander, telling him to take the kitchen, and he says he has her back, like they're immediately in sync again.
Well, and I really love the way it goes to emergency and they immediately start working together. Mm-hmm. But I feel like the "I got your back" line is weird.
Yeah, it's a little on the nose.
It's like, what? Would he really say that, or would he just head to the kitchen?
It's, you know, it's like that you could.
We could have figured it out.
Yeah, it's like you didn't expect your audience to figure out that, oh, they're just working together now, because that's what they're actually like. You know, you actually have to say these words in order for the audience to get it, and you don't have to do that.
Yeah, it feels like he shouldn't have said that. It's very awkward.
Yeah,
and a weird time and place to do it. They could have showed it by them like fighting back to back or something like that.
Yeah.
Or like passing each other and handing each other weapons or something. You know, there were a lot of ways to do it without that weird "got your back."
Yeah. Or even just saying something like, "I'm on it." Like, I feel like "I'm on it" would have flowed better and would have still.
Oh, definitely. It's just weird what he says there. And it's in the script book. They wanted him to say it.
Yep.
Right after that, there's this weird part where Joyce says, "Are these vampires?" And I feel like it's pretty obvious these are zombies. Like, this is... Joyce can be forgiven. She is new to all this, even though you would think anyone that just knows anything about popular culture would realize zombie. Mm-hmm. But then Buffy says, "I don't think so," and tries to stake one. And when it doesn't work, says, "No, not vampires." Now, why does Buffy think these are vampires? She knows what a vampire looks like. I don't like that scene at all. It's very weird.
Yeah. Man, I'm cutting to The Wish, where she makes the line about, you know, staking somebody in the heart with a wooden stick, and Giles is just like, "They're not a vampire," and she's just like, "You'd be surprised how many things that works on." And I'm just like, almost like the shock there is more the fact that she just shoved something into this thing's chest and it's still moving.
Yeah.
Right before that, though, Joyce is watching Buffy fight one of these zombies and, like, picks up a vase and hits him over the head with it. And, like, throughout all of this, I just notate that Joyce is a badass. Like, she is in this fight. In the kitchen, Xander and Cordelia are fighting another zombie. Xander whacks it. Cordelia, like, stabs it with something that she finds. I'm not exactly sure what it is. I guess a knife of some sort. Something. And Pat is kind of outside of the kitchen in that center hall that goes
trying to hide.
Yeah.
I would be trying to hide.
And is grabbed. Xander has the great line of, you know, this guy wobbles, but he won't fall down. Then we cut back to the living room, and Joyce, Devin, and Oz are, like, manhandling the zombie out the front door, which is just a fantastic combination of people.
There are lots of interesting combinations of people in this episode.
Yeah. Buffy is shouting that they need to barricade the door and that they need help. Xander says he's got it as he and Cordelia have the zombie pin. So Cordelia runs to help Buffy. And then there's the most awkward cut where Cordelia walks in And the zombies break through the front door, and Xander is somehow inexplicably there. So is there a scene cut from this section?
There is not.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
Xander just teleports into to the front of the house because he's there to run upstairs with him. But I like actually watched it frame by frame, and it's not even like he runs around. Like he is just suddenly with the group at the door.
Yeah, it says that Cordy enters as the others finish putting up the barricade. Their fortress seems to be holding, and everyone breathes a sigh of relief. Buffy, great, good job, and then smash, the barricade comes tumbling down, and it's zombie Rama again. Everyone freaks and scatters. Devin, Jonathan, and other miscellaneous guests beat it out of the living room and into the basement, where they race down the hall. Buffy enters the hall and encounters Xander returning from the kitchen. She grabs him and calls to the others upstairs.
Did they just realize that was going to be incredibly awkward to film, Eric?
I guess so. And then it says that Oz and Cordy help Joyce go up the stairs and end up running right into a zombie who comes crashing through the front door, forcing them to change directions. And there is an incredibly long scene that was cut here. This is Cordelia and Oz. And Cordelia says, "Oh, goody, back to the basement." Because she's been there. Mm-hmm. And then we're at the hallway outside the basement door. Jonathan, Devin, and several other guests are in the basement. They close the door just before Cordy and Oz arrive. Oz and Cordy pound on the door, but it won't open. Cordelia, "Come on, let us in. It's Cordelia and Oz." Jonathan, "But how do we know you're not a zombie pretending to be Cordelia? Zombies don't talk." "But how do we know? Maybe they do in real life. Maybe only pretend zombies don't talk." Cordelia, "Well, maybe they talk in real life, but I think they would have, dapper, sort of gravelly voices." And then Oz notices a large zombie lumbering toward them and tells her zoology can wait. I'm sorry, zombology can wait.
Zombology.
Yes, and drags her away. Yeah. And then we go upstairs to everyone upstairs in Joyce's bedroom.
Nice.
And while I was reading that, I read it when I was prepping for the podcast, but when reading that is the first time I realized it said zombology and not zoology.
Nice.
Which makes more sense.
Yeah. Xander, Willow, Buffy, Joyce, and a drug-in Pat in Joyce's bedroom. Joyce is checking on Pat and says she's dead. And the zombies are trying to push through the door, and so all four of the alive people are holding the door while Joyce is asking, "What do we do if they get in?" Xander's like, "I think we die." And then the mask glows, and Pat opens her eyes.
Yeah. So she apparently had died and became a zombie that quickly.
Yeah.
Which, in the script book, it says that she's moaning on the stairs when they help her in. So apparently she died when they drug her into the room.
Maybe. It happened real fast. I'm also just wondering, so she was in the downstairs hall.
Mm-hmm.
She got upstairs somehow and died right outside of the room.
Well, no, she died as they were dragging her in, because in the script book, when they find her, she's moaning.
No, but like what we see on screen, she's right outside of the room. So she either fled from the zombie or somehow a zombie drug her up there. Perhaps she fled from a zombie. I'll give the benefit of the doubt there.
He was going to save her for later?
No, I'm just like, she was right outside of Joyce's room and the door was wide open and the mask is in there. What was that zombie's priorities?
Okay, good point. Yeah.
I don't understand the motivation of these zombies, is what I'm saying.
Maybe she died of fear?
The character development on these zombies is not done nearly well enough. You think they're after the mask, but maybe they're just after, like, fun terror and killing people. But they don't want to eat the victims. They just want to leave them mostly dead, lying around, maybe? I don't know.
Fully intact.
I mean, we do know that zombies don't eat the flesh of the living unless instructed to. So that is Buffy canon. So then we have a completely black screen. And Cordelia saying, "I don't hear anything. Should we check?" And Oz agrees.
There's a little bit where Cordelia says, "Is that your foot?" And Oz says, "Oh, sorry." And then, "I don't hear anything. Should we check?"
Oh.
Not important, just a
It was
Another line.
It was cut from the episode. They exit the closet, and Cordelia pulls out what appears to be ski poles, which begs the question, why do they have ski poles?
Maybe they went skiing.
Why?
Like Buffy and her mom have ski poles.
Why would she's lived in California her entire life, it seems.
Aren't there places in Northern California where you can ski?
Is it enough? Like, I know she likes ice skating, but is it enough of a hobby that they would have to own their own ski poles?
Oh, well, in every TV show ever, the house has ski poles. I think they just come with a house when you buy it if you're on TV.
Okay, that makes sense. I get
It's true, though. I mean,
get you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's
golf
like
clubs. They all have golf clubs, too.
Like badminton rackets. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are what are in closets.
Yeah. No matter where the house is.
Yeah. Or how sporty the family appears to be.
Yeah. So Oz and Cordelia run into Giles. And Cordelia says, how do we know it's really you and not zombie Giles? At which point Giles says, Cordelia, please stop being tiresome. And she knows it's really him, which I like that one. I really like Giles in this episode.
Oh, yeah. Solid through and through.
So
then we get the name drop. Don't forget about the name drop. Oz is like, I think the dead man's party is upstairs. Name drop.
Yeah, and Giles points out that it's the mask they're after, and it's upstairs, and explains what will happen if someone gets the mask, which they'll become, a demon. And then we're back in Joyce's bedroom where they're still fighting zombies, and Pat sits up. And Joyce sees her, gets really excited. Oh, God, Pat, we thought you were. And then it says Pat shoves her roughly aside and falls on the mask. But, I mean, she kind of just pushes Joyce, and Joyce lands on the bed and rolls off the other side. Like, it's a very gentle push, a very gentle landing. Pat grabs the mask and puts it on her face, and it welds itself to her face. And she becomes a zombie. And then all the other zombies start cowering and scared of the Pat zombie.
Mm-hmm. Well, she was already a zombie, right? She turned into the demon.
Well, yeah, Pat demon.
Yeah, because it's a zombie demon.
And then,
right?
Yeah.
Gotta get my terminology correct here.
And zombie Pat is still calling her zombie Pat in the script.
That's
demon zombie Pat.
Demon zombie. It's a demon zombie. That's what Giles explained earlier.
Yeah, she can talk now. And she says, I live, you die.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So zombies may or may not be able to talk, but demon zombies can.
Mm-hmm.
We're still waiting on confirmation for zombies. Buffy gets weakened by like this kind of bright flash that comes from the demon zombie's eyes and is knocked down. And then she tells Willow to not look, and Willow just stands and stares anyway. And Buffy struggles up and grabs demon zombie Pat and rushes through the window because this house needed more damage done to it.
Well, yeah.
And they fall down into the yard.
They roll off the roof.
They even hit the like banister on the porch on the way down too. Like just all of the structural damage that they could do, they did. Yes, and then the three, Giles, Cordelia, and Oz, again, great grouping, love it, are on the stairs heading up, and they hear the crash and start to head back, and then a zombie, who's just apparently been chilling, rounds the corner.
And I don't know for sure, but this zombie looks like a lot like the guy that played Dylan in season 1.
Oh, okay.
Was that season 1?
Trying to remember
where they tried to make Cordelia into a zombie for him. Oh. That guy. It looks a lot like him, and it might be.
Of season 2. I didn't remember his it was very early season 2. I didn't remember his name or he definitely looks like that character though. Like I noted that, and I think he's in the group earlier when it's like the wide shot and there's several of them, because I was just like, oh, that kind of looks like the football jock that was brought back. So there's a couple quick cuts. You have Buffy running from zombie demon Pat, shouting, not looking, not looking. And then you have a quick cut upstairs, and it's Joyce, Willow, and Xander fighting a zombie, and it's mainly just Joyce fighting this zombie.
Yeah.
zombie demon Pat knocks Buffy down. Buffy covers her eyes. Then you have a cut to Giles telling Oz to run and tell Buffy to go for the eyes. And as he's running out, Buffy's picking up a shovel, but is flashed again by the zombie demon Pat, who hears Oz come out and then turns around and does the same little like flashbang to him. And then Buffy drives the shovel into zombie demon Pat's eyes. And Oz is just never mind.
I love when he says, never mind. There's another scene later on where he says he does something like that that's really funny. I think it's in Gingerbread. Anyway, it's the one where the town goes crazy hunting for witches.
Yeah, Gingerbread's the name.
Yeah.
Of that episode.
Then we have all the zombies begin to disappear. Like all the, when Pat dies, all the zombies just like vanish.
They disappear, yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Well, yeah, because zombies do that. Like, I'm guessing they appear back in their graves. I don't know. But here's my question. How do they explain what happened to Pat? I mean, do they just like, when her family starts looking for her, are they just like, oh, she never made it here?
Yeah.
Because she vaporized. Like, there's no body.
Yeah. She partied too hard.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm assuming like she has a family or somebody and she told them where she was going.
Yeah. You act like we haven't had this conversation like 100 times at this point.
It is still valid.
We're only at the beginning of season 3.
We will have this conversation several times during every season.
Yes.
Because it is valid.
It is valid.
Sometimes you have to explain where the vaporized zombie demon goes.
Yeah. That's for Joyce to deal with. That's Joyce's problem.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. The police are out to get Buffy for stuff. They might try pinning it on her.
Mm-hmm.
But they all vanish, and except for the damage to the house, which does not miraculously repair itself.
No. Wouldn't it be great if that was built into like a demon's magic? Hey, if you kill me, all the damage I did will magically disappear. Oh man, that would be great.
That would be nice.
Joyce runs downstairs, frantically looking for Buffy, and she embraces her. I got this lovely little exchange where Joyce is like, is this a typical day at the office? And Buffy's just like, this was nothing.
Yeah. Which is kind of true.
Yeah, she's not wrong. And then everybody kind of awkwardly gathers. Xander and Buffy exchange compliments. And then Willow and Buffy hugged.
And we're all good.
Everything's fine. It's still not as good as the, we could, smash the bones of our enemies, but heck, we did that last night. And then we have this scene, which part of me loves this scene and part of me hates this scene.
Really?
I love this scene because Tony Head has a great performance, but also what is he trying to do here? Because he even admits, he's just like, yeah, you're powerful in local circles, so I'm literally going to push you up against a file cabinet and threaten you.
Yeah. So I enjoy this scene because, I started watching this show when I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was way closer to the ages of the Scooby Gang than to Giles. But I'm 41 now. Mm-hmm. And this Giles in this show has not aged, and he's hot.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm all about Giles now. I'm like,
he is
this is amazing.
He's very attractive, and the performance is great. I just don't understand the reasoning.
To get her back into school.
Yeah, but like, I'm there until he actually becomes physical. And then I'm just like, is that just him getting hot-headed himself? Like his Ripper is showing and he doesn't think it, like, that's not a strategic move. The other moves feel strategic and they feel like legitimate even though it's, again, that's not how it works. Or Snyder's just like, oh, take it up with the city council. And Giles is like, I'm going to go to the state with this. I'm just like, no, this is still like a school issue.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, nowadays you would just go to the media.
Yeah. Truth.
You just feel like, okay, I'm going to see if this could go viral on Facebook and a news channel will pick it up. And, then we'll get justice.
They'll do it every time. But yeah, like just going in and basically explaining that I can make things difficult for you professionally speaking, I think that makes a lot of sense and has a lot of strategy to it. But I think him, like, actually getting physical there is too much. And it may have just been, this is his Ripper showing, and you can't, like, sometimes he can't control his Ripper. But it even though it's a great performance, and I love the smile that he has when he says,
that smile is everything.
Yeah, would you like me to convince you? That smile is everything.
Oh,
and
yeah.
even just the little head shake, it's the slightest little head shake, but even the little head shake that Snyder has after he hears that, and he's like, actually, yeah, I don't want to be convinced, no, sir. But strategically, I have problems with it because I don't really think it's the right move on Giles's part. But the performance is great. Performance is top notch. So I love this scene, even though there's parts of it that I'm just like, but why would you do that? Why would you do it that way? Like, you still, like, work at this school with this man.
Yeah, but...
And if he hadn't just talked about the fact that Snyder has probably less power than he thinks he has, but Giles is willing to admit that Snyder has power in local circles. And I'm just like, obviously Giles has more connections than Snyder does, because Giles has connections through the Watchers Council and through everything else that's much bigger than, the Sunnydale City Administration. But, like, still, he should have been able to piece together that the cops acted irrationally towards Buffy just a few months ago. And maybe not, making the local circles target him is a good idea.
You're right. It doesn't make sense, but I enjoyed the scene so much.
It's, you love it. And it's because of the performance that I love it. If the performance hadn't been very, very good, then I would have been like, this is the worst. But, Tony Head sells everything. So then we're back at the coffee shop. And Willow was talking about, like, witchcraft and stuff. And that's pretty cool. I like when that happens. She says that she tried communicating with the spirit world and blew the power out for her entire block.
Yeah.
And Buffy says that, she wished that she could have been there for Willow. And Willow says she understands there are things she was going through that led her to having a bell, and that she can forgive Buffy.
Yeah. Then Buffy makes a joke about Willow and her moral superiority. And they just kind of start teasing each other, calling each other names, which include runaway and witch.
Mm-hmm. And it ends with the best, bad seed. I love that delivery. Bad seed. Aw, it's so precious.
Yeah. It's a good episode.
Yeah, it's
what
one of those episodes that I didn't think I enjoyed as much as I enjoyed this viewing, if that makes sense. It's one that I remembered being not as good as it actually is.
That's happened to me a few times since we started doing this. There'd be an episode that I'm like, that's not one I really like that much. And then I watch it and I'm like, I do like that one.
Yeah, this is the one with the whole gathering shindig hootenanny commentary. That's such a good moment. And you forget about it being in this episode until you watch this episode and you're like, that's what that's from. I feel like there's lots of Buffy lines that I know so well, but I have no idea what episode they come up in until I do like a complete watch through. I'm just like, oh, it's this episode.
Oh, this should be fun. Name one. I want to see if I can do it.
Just name a line that I know.
Yeah, just a line that is familiar to you.
Fudge.
Did I put you on the spot?
Yeah, you put me on the spot. Jesus.
I have a Buffy trivia game and stuff, and I can't ever get anyone to play it with me.
Oh, okay.
So
maybe that can be a special episode.
Where we play Buffy trivia?
Yeah. Special episode of the podcast where we just do Buffy trivia.
I think that would be fun. I never get to do it.
No, I can't think of one on the spot. We've been recording for over 2 hours. I'm done.
No.
I'm burnt out. That was Dead Man's Party.
Mm-hmm. And next time we get to meet Faith, who I love. Even when she's bad, I love her.
Really? Faith's who you're excited about? You're not excited about meeting Scott Hope?
Yeah, I never liked him.
I don't believe that for a second.
You're being sarcastic, right?
I'm never sarcastic. We've done this bit before.
Do you like him? Do you like his character?
No.
Yeah, I don't either.
He exists. He's there. He's one of those characters that I don't really think about until he's on the screen. I'm just like, oh yeah, you're there.
I mean,
occasionally I'll think about Parker without watching the Parker episodes. I don't think I ever really think about Scott Hope without Scott Hope specifically being mentioned in whatever scene I'm watching.
Yeah, I mean, I like him better than Parker, but
he's more forgettable.
Yeah, as her boyfriends go, he's not. Yeah. He's in what 3 episodes, I think. I don't think he's not in very many.
Honestly, it's like as soon as he's off the screen, I forget everything. Most forgettable Buffy character, Scott Hope. Yeah. Anyway, that will be next time. And this has been the podcast for this time.
Okay.
This is why I could not come up with a quote. My brain is dead.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for listening. And this is where we say bye.
Bye. Oh, well.
That's fun.
Man, the older I get, the hotter Giles gets. I just have to say that.
Oh my gosh. He's so hot.